Hello everybody and welcome to Amphlett Reviews, back with another Japanese deep dive into some more Banmei Takahashi. Big fan of this director, definitely becoming one of my favorite kind of left field Japanese directors, doing some very pink related films or kind of slow microscopic budget kind of thrillers or something like Neo Chimpia or something like the Door movies. Very interesting director, and I'm here to talk about A New Love Within Tokyo, released in 1994. I recently checked this one out. It's been on my list for quite some time. I've been very curious about it for, of course, obvious reasons. And it's very interesting kind of diving into his films because I'm always getting something a little different each time. I did check out Door 1 and 2 quite some time ago. I haven't done videos for them, but I might do down the line. And I didn't like, funny enough, the first Door movie. I thought it was pretty, questionable in terms of some of those choices, let's say that, but Door 2 I thought was pretty good. I thought it was surprisingly underrated, and it's weird how it was kind of thrown as a bonus kind of film on that edition from Window. It's kind of like not even properly listed, but I thought that was the better movie. From that scene, Neo Chimpia, Zoom Goes the Bullet on the V Cinema set, which I thought was fantastic and probably my favorite of the entire edition in terms of that V Cinema box set. And then watching the second film, which I thought was very good as well. And I really want to check out all of his films in terms of the access that were available from him. Early portion of his career, how he got into the kind of industry was doing these kind of very small, low budget, 60, 62 minute, 65 minute kind of barely a feature erotic kind of movies, pink related films based on violence, sex and nudity essentially. And through these kind of imageries that we do see, and we've seen a variety of this through many of the Japanese directors, starting in pink films and then doing the Yakuza kind of thrillers, and then getting more of a signature status later on. It's always interesting to see with this director, it's the ends that justify the means. And even though he is doing the kind of the traditional kind of maybe like a rape movie or something, or a woman who just gets assaulted or whatever, he's always got something interesting to say. He's using it as a, okay, fine, I'll add it into the film, I'll do it based around this, but I will use it as a jumping point to say something, to do something. He's always got some sort of clever satire, some sort of interesting kind of comedy, and he has a real good sense of fucking humor. Not to mention shooting these really gorgeous women in very complimentary ways, especially with this film. And there is another video we'll be talking about after this one in terms of one of his very early kind of pink films, which I want to discuss about. But it's interesting how he kind of uses that as a jumping point, diving into something like The Door, which is the kind of microscopic kind of budget, kind of, chamber kind of thriller. It's very strange in terms of its kind of choices, but people seem to like it. It's definitely got some kind of strong reputation in terms of the director's company, which also was a good kind of jumping point from that director. Then doing something like the Neo Chimpia films, part of the Toei company V Cinema, straight-to-video on-demand, low-budget films, taking a crack at that, doing some thrillers, doing some interesting kind of commentary on the modern youth of the kind of early 90s with the Yakuza stance, which I think is quite fun and quite interesting, and really loved them and really kind of identified what he was doing with these films. And then doing this film now with New Love in Tokyo, which is 1994 as mentioned, a very late 90s film after doing the Neo Chimpia films. And I gotta say, I was mind blown and I was thoroughly impressed by the delivery, the execution, and the heart and soul of what this film is. On paper, on the poster, you think this is going to be another typical kind of sexy film, pink film, whatever you want to call it. It's got a woman in kind of a dominatrix kind of gear, and it's talking about themes of M&S. And we've seen this type of subject matter already within many Japanese films, some already covered on the channel, within the Beautiful Hunter movies, which I've dived a few into those films, and definitely are mixed in results, but you can tell the stronger director knows how to really kind of get the best out of their performances, while also telling a really good story, while having some creative kind of visual flair, and also just kind of using it as it ends to justify the means. I can't sell this film as a traditional, typical film, so if I add this stuff into it, then it can make it a bit more commercially accessible or make it more interesting for a buyer or a distributor to kind of pick up. Funny enough, though, with this film, with New Love in Tokyo, this is based on a book, I believe, based on the actual person that the person's following in terms of the film. And at the end of the film, we see kind of like, archival kind of footage. I'm guessing actual kind of home tapes for the real life person that the film is based off. And it's kind of like a documentary kind of tale of her life as a dominatrix, while being a student, while being want to be an actress, and just kind of her going through trials and tribulations. And it's a very surprising film. I would say the best thing to describe this to is something like Billy Piper's Secret Diary of a Call Girl, or also, funny enough, based on a true story and documents and memoirs of a call girl, and also got a very kind of similar flavor and feel as something like Anora, for instance. Funny enough, though, I think Anora is actually a bit more darker and a bit more of a bitter kind of ending in terms of where it goes. Obviously, a brilliant film. I love Anora, and it's the reason why he won an Oscar. But this film, I think, is definitely needs to be talked about more, needs to be kind of celebrated, and I hope it gets a really good release potentially down the line, because I think this definitely is a really strong film for what it's kind of diving into. And maybe it's the fact that I was in the right mood at the right time. Maybe I was expecting less than I actually got, and I fully enjoyed my time with this, and I absolutely 100% recommend this based if you watch my video or not. The very simple and basic storyline for New Love in Tokyo basically follows a memoir document of a dominatrix, someone who is providing services to various different kind of wealthy men, one's in Yakuza, fully enough, and various different fields that can afford her services, essentially. And the beginning of the film, basically, she's doing this kind of like tale to a reporter who's basically making I'm guessing an article or a series of articles based on her kind of experience for her portion of her time for her career. And this is based on true counts and true document of that, because they show the archival kind of footage of the real life person at the end of the film, which I thought was really cool. This follows basically her entry point and then her kind of friendship with another person who's in a different side of the field in terms of being a call girl. So we got a dominatrix and we got a call girl, two female-led performers, and it's basically just the trials and tribulations and the day-to-day life of maintaining that status quo, essentially. And it's surprisingly really well executed, really well crafted in terms of its cinematography, stylistic choices. There is a gorgeous kind of moment in the film when she's breaking in one of her new clients, and it turns to black and white, and it really plays upon the sound effect with the water dripping. I thought that was really cool how it plays with time a little bit there. I think all the visual side of it, the technical aspects in terms of its cinematography, its choices with its editing, within its kind of sound and music cues. Also has this really fantastic element of inserting kind of photographic shots within locations that our main character's in. Obviously, this is a bit explicit in terms of her being a nude and her being in like a beach or a kind of a field or a hotel or a room, and it just kind of intercuts to these kind of little moments of her, this actress basically being nude, and almost like a kind of photography, which does play into the film because there is a section where a photographer being on set and being with her and kind of taking some images of her kind of various kind of outfits, so that kind of just play into it. But a lot of it transitions into real kind of moments, so real kind of like her attending a garden in terms of the kind of flowers, and her being expressive and free and kind of free-natured, and just like Anora, showing the kind of the craft and the kind of the trade alongside a great supporting cast. It has a great storyline about two people that are choosing these highly sexual careers. Something like Tokyo Decadence, which I already covered previously in a different video. That film, I thought, got everything it wanted to achieve within the first kind of 45 hour of the film, and it just kept on going. It just kind of like, you're having these very specific, steamy kind of sessions. Fine, okay, I get it, but you're over glorifying it, you're overdoing it, and you're having this character which I'm not truly invested in. You're having more the darker side of it towards kind of the second half of that film, and I think it's just kind of got too messy in terms of what I wanted to say. It very much wanted to show this steamier kind of her clients, what she does, that kind of thing, but there was no real connection, I felt personally, apart from just having those scenes for the sake of having it. And I felt the film was a bit dull and a bit boring towards the end of the film. And something like even like Doors 2, for instance, the reason why I enjoyed that is because that is very much a Secret Diary of a Call Girl type-esque kind of thing, and it has the girl from the Neo Olympia, which is great in the film, and that goes through kind of the passion, the danger, the love of doing that type of services, and that has more of a traditional type of, it's very dangerous, and it's a character that's a bit, doesn't know really what she wants to do, who she wants to be, and then she kind of finds herself as the film goes along. So it's a bit more of a, similar to Anora, two characters kind of find themselves. Or in this film, for instance, you've got two established characters that are very comfortable with who they are, they enjoy their services, and they actually are grounded, nice people in real life. It shows the flip side of it just as much as the kind of the more raunchiest stuff in the film. It shows our main character doing acting classes, going through the the kind of lessons and the kind of the trials of that, and then leading up to a stage play, a very local, very kind of cheap stage play that she's kind of built up with her kind of acting crew. Does she sleep with everyone in that kind of group? Absolutely. Does she care? No, because she is a confident, very powerful, very strong, independent woman. And I love that. I love how confident the film is, even with the call girl aspect of, even with the call girl as well in the film. She just basically is using this to gain funds, to gain money, because she wants to marry a doctor. She doesn't care about these clients. She doesn't care about kind of the other side of it. She's just using it as a means to an end to basically fund her wedding and to show that she's from essentially a well-received kind of family, essentially. She's putting the money under her dad's name, and hey, look, I've got these funds they can use for the wedding, and she wants to marry a doctor. She's so in love. She's so infatuated with this boyfriend, wants to marry this doctor, and it's done through a very kind way. And to her kind of services that she provides to her clients in these hotel rooms is just a means to kind of make that money and then move on. So you've got two really strong, independent women that are doing services. They are understand the kind of the dangers of it. Sometimes it can be quite dangerous, and there is moments in the film where it can be a little bit, someone's got a knife, or this and that. But it doesn't dwell too much into that. It is showing there is real danger in the film. There is even a sequence where someone has been strangled, by the services of the call girl services, and there is obviously that potential threat of you go to a hotel room, you might not come out of it potentially. There is that kind of real possibility. We don't know what kind of person you're going to get offering your services to. And even with the Yakuza character, which is getting, wax in his mouth kind of thing, and getting beaten up and being spoken to because he's paying for that service. He wants that. The scenes themselves, in terms of the dominatrix stuff, is played straight, but it is so ridiculous. It's so over the top in terms of these kind of services. It just become quite funny, and it's played in that kind of way. It is taken seriously. Of course, there's probably a lot of people's fetishes, granted, but it is played for that kind of like, this is just a job. She enjoys it. She enjoys being the boss of control, and it is played a little bit for the laughs. In terms of how it's presented, it's done in a very kind of consensual, carefree kind of manner, and it is very well handled. And it's just a bit of an insight, bit of a viewpoint into that world, instead of kind of some of the other ones that take it really seriously, or go a bit more aggressive or a bit more violent. Funny enough as well, you also have Shirikawa in the film for a very brief 10-second cameo as a kind of an enforcer. There's a bit of a moment where someone has a bit of danger, and they kind of call him at the hotel to basically sort clients out. Literally just a 10-second cameo, barely even in the film. It's just, hey, why is he in the film? He's just there. He's just calling him that favor. Thoroughly enjoyed my time with this film. Really surprised. Definitely more than meets the eye in terms of that poster, in terms of that kind of trailer. It's selling you on the sexy side, the raunchy side. Always the M&S kind of going to play. I don't think I've seen a film quite like this prior to something like Anora, which is really mind-blowing, and I don't think I've seen a film which tackles this material in such a respectful, very kind of honest, grounded kind of way, giving these women agency, giving them this kind of hey, it isn't all doom and gloom. It isn't just people doing drugs or running away from their problems or having pimps or having abusive relationships. It isn't all these kind of traditional, typical things that people go into. It's just two women who decide to do these services, and they got ends to justify the means. They're doing it for very specific reasons, and they are who they are, and they are confident in what they do. And there is some real interesting choices in terms of not just the characters, but also the locations, where the story goes. I absolutely love, one of my favorite things about the film is to try and sell it a little bit to you, is that she has this dominatrix kind of relationship back and forth, constantly showing throughout the film with this Yakuza character, which is great to see Yakuza kind of being used in this kind of way. And he does cross the line a little bit, but does it for the most genuinely nice way possible, where basically he kind of finds out a little bit more about her. You know, she has a stage play. It's all building up to a stage play that happens, and she performs it very well, and she's obviously very different in terms of her kind of appearance. She's an actress. She just wants to be an actress, which makes sense in the dominatrix stuff. And the Yakuza guy basically is forcing people to sell like tickets, forcing his crew to sell tickets, and basically adding in like football games or matches or whatever. Hey, it's a free show, turn up. You know, he's not beating anyone up, but basically very heavily implying and sweetening the pot to anyone that turns up. And this entire room is packed, and it's all down to because of this Yakuza character. And he's saying like, yeah, I crossed the line. I'm probably going to get hurt from this in terms of our relationship, but you know, I wanted to do something for you. You know, it's not a lot for me. And it's like, wow, 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 wow. And I love the fact that our main character has that kind of expression, has that face with her eyes, very kind of, you know, stern boss lady, dominatrix, like, oh, okay. And then she kind of changes her demeanor, changes her body language, and goes for that kind of soft kind of smile and a nice thank you. Brilliant. What a very captivating kind of character. Can't recommend this film enough. Please go and check it out if you can find it. Hopefully this will get a really good UK release down the line, maybe from 88 Films. They seem to be diving into this type of material. So definitely would see it part of their library. So what are your thoughts and opinions on New Love in Tokyo? Please comment down below. What is your favorite movie from this director? I'd love to know your thoughts and impressions. Please comment down below. So in the meantime, guys, Amphlett Reviews, signing out.